Hey, welcome to the table. I know I'm not at a table. There's a table behind me, an altar. Remember, we talk about this for at the table. It's Jesus's table, not an altar that we have to come and offer, but a table that we receive from. And in this room is actually a pretty big table for me, intellectually, spiritually. This is Goodson Chapel. We've been here before. We spent some time here talking with some professors back in the fall. This table, as in the room, has offered me a lot of experiences, hearing wonderful preachers share about their experience of God in their life, from expositions of Scripture that are just mind-boggling, from spiritual cohorts that gather in here and just journey through life while we're working through divinity school or work or processing what we're supposed to do after all of this. It's been a pretty great place. And all the while, we've got this cross that's hanging above us. It's a beautiful cross, and it's an interesting cross, the way that it's shaped, the way that it was built. And what I understand is back in 2004, 2005, it took about a year of constructing to put all of this together, but it is a cross that was built in the ground. They dug out in the earth itself a mold for the cross, poured the cement in, stamped it all down, covered it up for 28 days, and then after 28 days, they pulled it out of the earth itself, cleaned it up, and brought it and installed it here in Goodson Chapel. It's just gorgeous. You can see that there's a cut down the middle going both ways. There's light that shines through the cross. There's a smooth interior and a rough exterior. There's so many wonderful ways we could point to this image of a cross that Jesus would be able to point to ways in which he relates to us in wonderful ways. I know pastors are really good about pulling out the Jesus card often. I may have to pull it out one more time today, but welcome to the table. We've been journeying the last 6 weeks being honest about church, having conversations about what the world says about church, what the church expects of itself, the world holding the church to its own standards, and the church kind of falling apart from time to time in that. And we've been dealing with those honest things, and they're tough. They've been hard to have a conversation with. They may have been hard to listen to, but I think that they've been really important and good. And in this season where we're asking why church, we still have some more questions to deal with. Today, just as we're finishing this series of Let's Be Honest About Church and moving into a new series starting in Lent in just about a week, there is this statement that is kind of interesting to me, is that church is dry. That church is dry. It's an idea that I kind of put together of the world thinking that church doesn't have anything tangible to offer it. So the people that are not within our body of believers, the people that don't come to church on Sundays, whether they believe in God or don't believe in God, they look at church and think, what unique thing does this have to offer me in my life? How will I gain or grow from it? Well, we've already talked about the ways in which the church has offered so many wonderful benefits to the world in healthcare, and in food insecurity, in disaster relief, all of these places. And yet, we know that there's other organizations that could have and are doing those same things. So in this idea that the church should have something unique to offer, what is that? That's that little bit of wrestling that we're doing today. And when I think about that, I think the big question comes down to is, why God? Not just why God question mark, but why God did you let this thing happen to me? Why God do disasters happen around the world? Why God did my loved one get taken from me in this drastic way? Why God are you not answering me? Those questions, those why God questions. If there's anything that the church should be unique about and what it offers to the world, what it offers to individuals, I think it's maybe not the answer, but at least a conversation around those questions. I wrestle with some of those questions too. We've talked about a tagline to my emails, our faith and doubts. I live within these doubts the same as anyone else. Doubts of God hearing my prayers, doubts of understanding what the purpose is of God causing something to happen or not causing something to happen. I wrestle with those same things. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I came to Duke in the first place, was to wrestle with a lot of those things. It was to hopefully find answers from the professors or from the theologians that I'd read from in this space about those questions. In fact, I did a lot of studying in one particular place. I want to show it to you. I think it's cool. Come with me.
No matter what, until this race is won, I will stand my ground where hope can be found. I will stand my ground where hope can be found. Oh, Lord, I know you hear my cry.
And now welcome to the basement of the library. This is only the first floor of at least one other floor down below. I think 2 others. But this is where I did a ton of studying. So just walk with me through here and see some of this space. Can you imagine someone just sitting down at the end of this hall, reading books, writing a paper? Mountains and mountains of books everywhere. Here's another spot that I used to write papers at. As you're walking through here, there are just tombs and rows and columns and aisles and books scattered all about. And what I want you to look at as you're walking through here is that these people who wrote all of these books, these are people who wrestled with all of those same questions of why God. They were trying to figure out what was going on in life. They were trying to figure out why things were working or weren't working for what they understood God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and the church to be. That's what all of these books are. And they go back hundreds of years, some probably older than that. There's so much knowledge here, and yet people today are still asking those questions. That means they're important questions. That means we haven't answered those questions. That means also you're not alone in asking these questions. You shouldn't feel ashamed about not knowing the answer. I shouldn't feel ashamed about not having the answer either, even as a pastor. People have tried, and people continue to try. And for all of these books, for all of the knowledge that keeps getting shared, for all the ideas that keep coming out, we know that there's still yet something more. That's one of the reasons I want to show you this library. But let's come out of here. We can be a little bit louder. We'll talk more.
Still through the tears and the questioning why, I will stand my ground where hope can be found. I will stand my ground where hope can be found.
Okay, so as you're walking around, because I know you probably are not going to the library as often as I did while I was at seminary. I'm not even going to the library that often. But maybe you go down to the public library and you spend some time there looking at all the books and the questions that they're trying to answer. I do want you to recognize that as you walk through the world, as you go to the grocery store, as you maybe see people at the coffee shop or at restaurants, I want you to know that all of those people are amongst the list of people, because it's everyone, who are asking these questions, who are trying to figure out whatever their why God question is. Why God haven't you? Why God did you? Why God didn't you? All of those people, like how I'm walking no longer at the divinity school, just the rest of Duke, all of these people are seeking answers in their own unique ways for these questions that they're wrestling with. Again, I don't want you to be alone. As I think about this question, again, I said it earlier, it's pretty easy for us pastor types to come up with a way to point to Jesus. But really, Jesus shows us a myriad of ways in which Jesus knows what we're going through. And one of the moments, as we talked about the cross, is Jesus who's on the cross and in final moments of life with nothing else to give, no extra energy to pull together, probably had very few words left capable of saying. And some of those words were, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And I think even in the church, our Christians, we don't recognize ourselves as readily. We don't want to recognize ourselves as readily in that sentence of Jesus, that statement, my God, why have you forsaken me?" But I think very likely out of everything that Jesus ever said in the Gospels, those words right there captured more of humanity in the struggles and the pain and the suffering and the questions of why. Why to a larger picture that any of us understand, why. And then I think we realize, I think that statement, I think that captures more of us than just in the church, more of us than just out in the world. It captures all of us all together. And so when I say I hope that you know you're not alone in asking those questions, I mean not only is it all of the books in the library, not only is it the people that are walking around, but it's even Jesus himself has taken a moment where life has not turned out as he expected to. He's in just a moment lost some of that sense, at least, of what this all is for. And in that pain and that hurt is feeling forgotten and left behind. And in that moment of suffering, we can see Jesus really wrestling with the things that we wrestle with. I graduated in 2019 from Duke, and when I did, they gave me this cross. It's a kind of an aqua blue cross, beautiful piece of glass that was cut. All of us got one of these, all cut from the same large piece of glass. I keep this in my window above my kitchen sink. I don't know where you ask those questions, but it seems like the window in front of my kitchen sink while I'm doing dishes or preparing something in the sink, that's when I start to ask a lot of those big questions. Maybe for you, it's the car ride. Maybe it's in conversations with others at a coffee shop. Maybe it's while you're sitting in hospital rooms. I wonder where you're asking those questions. I wonder where you're wrestling with them. I hope maybe the cross, even though it's a symbol of pain and suffering for a lot of people, even though we talk about carrying each other's cross, carrying our own burdens in life, it's heavy. But maybe the idea of a cross is a place of letting go, of relinquishing, of saying, I can't do this on my own. I need help. I need someone else to pick this up and answer these questions with me. Maybe you can look at a cross and see an image of a God who knows deeply what you are struggling with and is trying as hard and honest as God can to give you some answers. You won't get them all, but hopefully you'll get a sense of peace. This is just the beginning of a conversation. Ray, for the next couple of weeks through Lent, is going to be wrestling with these questions on Sunday morning, and we'll bring some of them to At the Table too. I want you to know that you can continue asking questions why, not just why church, but also why God. If there's questions that you are curious about, send them to us. Write them up on the board as you're walking through our worship space, or you can send us an email. These questions are not something that we'll have the answer to, but we'll have a conversation about, and that's worthwhile. So come back and join us as we continue this question of why church, of why God, of just why. We'll see you then.